What is up, y'all? Welcome to the Whole Lotta Jesus podcast. I have our sweatshirt on, and this is season 2. I hope you're having a good day. I'm your host, Carley Rains, and I am super excited to get into this episode. It is Financial Literacy Month. Woo! I don't think a lot of people are going to cheer about that. But what Financial Literacy Month is, before you hop off, I hope you stay on. Financial Literacy Month is a month where we celebrate learning and growing in personal finance. I was not a finance major in college. I knew very little about personal finance. I took one class, and then as I pursued a master's and I got a job after that, I actually had the opportunity to help create a financial literacy program for the university that I went to, Southern Arkansas University. And I will say I had so much fun, not necessarily in the knowledge of personal finance, but creating a program. A lot goes into creating a program aside from just having the knowledge of the topic. You have to put systems in place, and you have to problem solve, and it's just creating, and it's very entrepreneur, and it was a lot of fun. But I will say it really gave me a heart for people who are burdened and bound by financial poverty. And this is a Christian podcast. I am not promoting the prosperity gospel, but what I am promoting is good stewardship about your money. And so we're going to do this series, and if you listened to, I did an episode, and it was called, Is College a Scam? Is college really worth it, or is it a scam? I think is what it was called. And with it being April and it being Financial Literacy Month, I really thought about helping you figure out how to get school paid for. And so we're going to do a series called From Student to Graduate, the Debt-Free Way. And that is what this series is called. Episode 1 will be, is college really worth it, or is it a scam? And that episode, if you haven't listened to it, I really outline the biblical perspective of money and how God views debt and these things that are celebrated and promoted in our culture and in our world that I don't think we've done enough research about to understand the biblical perspective. God actually talks about this in the Word. And we pull up a verse from Deuteronomy. It is a great verse. And it talks about how God is going to bless his people, the Israelites. But he tells them, if you carefully obey my commandments, you will lend, so you will give money, but you will not need to borrow. And I love how it's worded, you will not need to borrow, because it gives us this perspective that we can borrow and we have the free will choice to borrow. But what God is saying is that when you prayerfully and humbly and obediently walk out my commandments, follow me every step of the way, I'm going to provide for you in miraculous ways. And in that episode, I give you a testimony of how God provided not only for my 4 years going to a D2 school, but also for my master's. So I have a master's and I have a bachelor's, and I'm completely debt-free. I got it fully paid for. I do not come from a rich family. Actually, my parents never helped pay for school, not one bit. I really didn't have help. I had my grandparents gave a little bit of money to me every now and then, to help with like food and different expenses. But I had to be very strategic about how to get school paid for, because it was a big goal of mine to be debt-free. And I want to motivate you and encourage you, and I hope this episode and this series just shows you that it's worth putting in the hard work and getting college paid for and being the student to graduate the debt-free way. So this is episode number 2, and I am going to give you 8 ways to get college paid for in cash. And I'm just going to be upfront, okay? These are not easy ways. These are going to, each one of these is going to require sacrifice. It's going to require diligence. It's going to require some self-control, okay? Sacrifice, diligence, and self-control. So I'm not saying these are going to be easy to follow, but what I am saying is they're going to be worth it. And I had to do, I think, every single one of these that I wrote down. Yeah. I had to do every single one of these. Maybe not number 7, but we're going to get into it. So number one is choose a school that's affordable. Now, the glamour of D1 schools is that they are promoting the brand of the school. Come to Texas A&M, come to Texas Tech. If you listen to the last episode of the first series, I wanted to go to Texas Tech. That is the school that I wanted to go to. I actually had applied there. I had gone and picked my major. I had gone to orientation. I had my roommate. We had it already planned of how we're going to decorate our room. I was in it, guys. I was in it. And March happened, and I really had to sit down because I was paying for school. My parents weren't helping. I was doing it all on my own, figuring it out. And I really had to sit down and say, okay, is debt, because D1 schools, guys, especially private schools, but D1 schools are expensive. They are outrageously expensive. And what they are selling you is not your education, because you can get your education at a D2 school, at an NAIA school. You can get your education at other schools that are way less costing. What they're selling you is the brand. Okay, it's like Nike, Adidas, Louis Vuitton. Okay, D1 schools are like the designers, the bougie brands, Lululemon. They're that type when it comes to college and higher education. That's who they are. D1 schools are way more expensive. They're selling you the football games and just the experience and the environment that you get when you go to the school. That's why when you do your tour and stuff, they take you by your building and your classroom and all and that stuff, but they're mainly focused on, look at this, and can you picture yourself here, and can you picture yourself going to the games? And they do very good marketing because plenty of students have and are attending their schools, so they are good at selling their brand. But that's what they're selling. They're not selling their education. And I will say that the college experience is a scam. I don't think college as a whole is a scam. I think you can learn a lot about yourself, and you can learn a lot about education in college. But I think as a whole, the college experience that you are wanting is not real. Okay? You can get that experience anywhere. You can get that experience at a community college. You can get that experience at a D2 school. Now, you might be more limited. You might not have, as fancy stuff and as much stuff. But I will say your college experience is not determined about what's accessible around you. It's honestly determined by your attitude. It's determined inwardly. And I don't think we realize this. I think we buy into the lie that your college experience is determined by the school that you go to. And it's not. It's determined by your attitude. It's determined by the friends that you make and who you surround yourself with. So if you want a good college experience, these are the things that I'm going to tell you, okay? You need to find really good friends that are godly and going to help grow you as a person. I listened to a podcast and they talked about there are 3 types of friends. This philosopher, I don't remember his name, but he describes these 3 types of friends, okay? One friend is the friends of convenience. They're the friends you work with, you might have class with, they're your neighbors. They're just people you see like when you go to church, and so you're friends because you're around one another, but like if you had to choose, you wouldn't necessarily have chosen them as a friend. They're just around you in your life. Friends of convenience. Then you have your friends of pleasure. These are the friends that you do fun stuff with, okay? So in college, you do need friends that you do fun stuff with. But you also need friends in this 3rd category. And the 3rd category is friends of goodness. These are the friends that you're vulnerable with. They're honest. They're vulnerable with you. You tell them your secrets. You tell them what you're struggling with. They get down to the nitty-gritty of what's going on in your heart. And you need good friends. Good friends. A lot of times what we find in college is that people will just have a lot of friends of pleasure because of the peer pressure that college brings and just the deception that's around it. You will have friends of pleasure that you go and party with, that you go and do these activities with that are fun in the moment. But after college and after you leave college, are they going to be the friends that you're going to call when you're in a crisis? or when you're in need of advice, or when you need some encouragement and you're really discouraged? Probably not. So you need friends of goodness. You need all three friends, but you really need friends of goodness when you go to college. Another thing is your attitude. Okay. Your attitude really determines your outcome. You can be in crappy situations and have a really good attitude, and I guarantee you your outlook and your perspective is going to be a lot better because of your attitude than if you had a negative attitude. So I just want you to know that it doesn't matter what's going on around you, okay? You are in control of your emotions and your attitude. And if you let the things around you control your emotions and your attitude and your outlook on life, you're in for a bumpy ride for the rest of your life because not everything is sunshine and rainbows. And that's something that we need to realize as Christians is we're going to go through suffering, we're going to go through good times, highs, and we're also going to go through lows, and we're going to go through valleys. So recognizing that, hey, my college experience is not necessarily determined on what the school offers, but how my perspective and my attitude towards college and what I'm doing, that's really what matters. So there's that. I do want to say also with picking a school that's affordable, you need to look at each class has a certain amount of credit hours, and that's how they determine their pricing. So a lot of times they will determine the price per credit hour. So if a class is 3 hours and it's $500 per credit hour, that means that one class is $1,500. That one class. And to be a full-time student is 12 hours. So you just take 500 times 12, and guess what? That is just your tuition. That doesn't include fees. That does not include your room and board. I mean, it's expensive, guys. So when you're looking at a college, I want you to go to the tuition tab, and I want you to look at per credit hour. And I want you to really evaluate yourself and really evaluate your financial standings and really say, what can I afford? Now, I'm going to give you some ways for how to make money during college, but please do not buy into the lie that it's better to take out student loans at the very beginning and just completely pay for your school. And this is the thing, guys. They're going to use the buy-in that, oh, well, you don't need to be stressed, and you just need to give yourself, more time, and you just need to so go ahead and take out your student loans. You can pay for them later. It's not that big of a deal. You're going to be making more money. No, like I said in the last episode, college is a business. It is a business. It hosts people's jobs where they provide for their families, and they're trying to make money. At the end of the day, a business cannot keep going if it's not making money. So recognize that of course they're going to want you to take out student loans because they get that money immediately from the government. Immediately the moment you take out student loans, it goes to them. So they get all this money at once. So recognize that, yes, they want what's best for you, but at the end of the day, they have to save their butt and their employees' butts. Okay? So it's a business. Also, you need to look at dorm living versus apartment living. Now, some schools require freshmen to stay on campus their first year. Our school did not require that. I went to a D2 school, Southern Arkansas University. It's very affordable, okay? So if you're looking for a school, check it out. If you're bordering state, I'm pretty sure that you get your out-of-state tuition waived. That's also another thing to consider is out-of-state tuition. Is it worth going out of state? I don't know. I graduated in Texas, and so I didn't have to pay out of state. And it was an affordable school. I personally don't think out of state is worth it unless the Lord calls you there and provides a miraculous way. And we're going to keep tying back into this theme of the Lord providing for you. So I'm not saying you can't go to Texas Tech. You can go to Texas Tech if you can pay for it in cash. At the end of the day, that is my point in this series, is to help show you that it's not necessarily about what school you go to. It's about where is God calling me and can I pay for it in cash? And if God's calling you there, you can pay for it in cash. Again, it might take some sacrifices, which we're going to get into. It might take some humbling yourself and it's going to take a lot of hard work and self-control, okay? So dorm living versus apartment living. I've been told, I haven't researched this myself, I've been told for D1 schools, it's actually cheaper to live in an apartment off campus than it is to live on campus. For where we were at Southern Arkansas University, I stayed at the nicest, oldest dorm. So we had apartments. You could rent a house and live off campus, or it was a D2 school, so they had like nice apartments that you could rent when you were an upperclassman. Your freshman, sophomore year, you got these different dorm options. There were nicer dorms, and then there were older dorms. I stayed at the lowest expense, but the nicest, lowest dorm. So they had different older dorms that were all the same price, and I picked the one that was the nicest, but was the lowest price. I'm glad I did that. Then when I became a junior and you were allowed to stay in the apartments were expensive. They were not cheap. And I had to make a decision. So keep note of this. Usually when you stay in a dorm room, not only are you paying for your room, but you're paying for a meal plan. So you're not really having to buy much groceries because you're going to the cafeteria, and we called it DB, where you could go to like Chick-fil-A and the places on campus and just use your room and board account that you're paying for. But when you're staying in an apartment, you're having to pay for food on top of your rent. And that food you haven't already paid for. You're having to pay for it throughout the semester. And our apartments were they were at least double, if not almost triple, what the dorm was that I was living at. And so I was like, is it worth being with my friends, living with my friends, and having to pay for my own food, rather than I can just go to the cafeteria and it's already made. The food's already made. I don't got to cook it. So not only am I saving time, but I'm also saving money staying in this older dorm. Now, I had to share a bathroom. It was a dorm style, so I did have my own room, thankfully, but I had to share a community bathroom. I had to share laundry. There were a lot of things that I had to share. But I do not regret it at all. I do not regret it at all. Okay, I went over there almost every day to my friends' apartments. So you can go over there all the time. You just sleep in your dorm room. Okay, so do research about dorm living versus apartment living, house renting, all of that. Do your research, okay? You also need to look at your fees, okay? Because they're going to send you in the mail when you get accepted to a college. They send you your tuition. But what they don't tell you at first is that there are all of these fees stacked on top of your tuition and your room and board. Fees for the library and printing, and some people put laundry in the fees. So instead of doing quarters, you just pay a flat fee for your laundry, fee for your fitness center. There are all these fees for the football games. There's literally, guys, there are so many fees that that colleges put on, okay? And it's to upkeep what you're getting for free. But you're not getting it for free because you're paying for it in fees. So really look at the fees of the school. Look at the whole entirety of your costs. Your tuition, your room and board, and your fees, okay? Another thing is they have payment plans. So when you're deciding, what school's affordable, you have to put down a deposit, a certain amount that you have to put down. And I think I had to put down 50% because when I went to school, I had scholarships, but I didn't have the whole thing paid for yet, okay? I eventually, by my junior year, had my whole school paid for, but those first 2 years, I didn't. I only had half of it paid for, and I had to pay for the other half, which was like $3,500, $3,500 that I had to pay out of pocket. And I was like, where am I going to get this money from? But I knew God called me there, so I was like, okay, I know He's going to provide. But again, when we say God provides, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have to work hard. You're going to have to work hard, and you're going to have to put in some work, and you're going to have to sacrifice, okay? But you will have to put down a deposit, but they have this thing called payment plans where every month or every 2 weeks or whatever it is, you can pay a certain amount so that by the end of the semester or the end of the year, your bill is paid for. So again, guys, going back to student loans, they get all that money right then and there. But a payment plan, they don't get the money right then and there. They get the money over time. Okay? So that's number one. Choose a school that's affordable. And our next episode, we're going to talk about the 3 P's, which is praying, patience, and planning. And that goes into choosing, well, that goes into all this, but it really goes into choosing a school that's affordable. Because how can you know where to go if you don't pray? Okay? So number 2 is set a limit per semester on what you can afford to do on and off campus. This includes trips because your friends for spring break or over Christmas break or over Thanksgiving break or a long weekend. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do this. Hey, let's go do this. Okay? Yeah, have fun and go do stuff, but you need to know your limit. Like, hey guys, like I can't, I'm trying to think of something super expensive. Maybe go hiking. Maybe that is a free thing that you can do with your friends. You can hike, and there's beautiful places that you can hike. Set a limit on eating out, how much you're going to eat out. If your friends want to go eat out every night for dinner, be like, look, guys, I can only eat out like twice a week. That's all I can afford because I have a goal, and I'm pursuing this goal for a long-term outcome. And I want you to remain focused on your goal. What is your goal? Remain focused on it. That's something that a lot of us fail at is we get distracted. We make this plan, we set this goal, and then we start to drift off of the path that we once set out to do. And I want you to stay committed and stay focused on your goal because you are going to thank yourself from someone who's done it. You're going to thank yourself. I promise you, you will. You will either thank yourself or you're going to want to shoot yourself in the foot. Okay, and I want you to thank yourself. I don't want you to want to shoot yourself in the foot, okay? So, set a limit on your trips, on your eating out, on your shopping. Travel, like gas and stuff, carpool. You don't always be the one that drives. Y'all switch it around. How many times are you visiting from home? That's also another thing you have to consider, guys, is if you're traveling 8 hours away, that was me. I was 8 hours from home. Now, thankfully, I couldn't even drive 8 hours due to having narcolepsy, but most people are not in that situation. So you need to, be honest with your parents and say, hey, look, like if you're paying for school, you set the boundaries. You're paying for your own school. Yes, I understand that your parents are still paying for certain bills. They're probably paying for your phone bill and your insurance and different stuff. But if you're paying for school, you get to determine like when you go home because it's your money. And this is kind of your first step into being an adult and adulthood. But just being honest with your parents and being like, hey guys, look, like I have this goal that I want to get school paid for. And I can only come home like twice or 3 times a semester. And you can tell them like, if you want me to come home more, maybe we could meet halfway. Maybe you could come here. Maybe you could give me gas money. Like there's options, okay? I'm not saying you restrict yourself to the school. But what I am saying is you don't foolishly just spend without recognizing like, oh, I should probably set myself a limit if I want to achieve this goal. Going back to sacrifice and self-control, like it's going to take sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice things in order to get a goal. That's just part of the process. So that's number 2, set a cap. Number 3, get a job. All right. So I don't know, some people are like, well, I don't want to be stressed while I'm in school, so I'm just going to be a full-time student. And I understand being a full-time student is a lot of work. But if you really want to get this paid for, you need to get a job, J-O-B. And what's great is they have on-campus jobs and they have off-campus jobs. You're going to have to do research to know which one is better. There are pros and cons to both. I will say a huge pro to on-campus jobs. I had an on-campus job, definitely my freshman and sophomore year. And pretty much all throughout college, I had a job. On top of doing college athletics, on top of being a full-time student. So you can do it, guys. You can do it. But on-campus jobs are great because what you can do is you can go to your student accounts or your financial aid and you can tell them, hey, I don't want to receive my check until my bill is paid for. And they actually will take your check and they will send it directly to your bill so you don't even see it. So you're not even tempted to spend that money on whatever you want. Now, I understand like if you need the money, to buy certain groceries or to pay certain things or it's your gas money, I understand that. But if you can afford to have it go directly to your bill, that is a great option because you're not tempted to spend it because it's not even getting in your hands. It's just going straight from the school to your bill. So on-campus jobs are great. Off-campus jobs are great too because some off-campus jobs actually will pay for your school or a portion of your school while you work for them in school. And I know Walmart has a program and there's these different companies that have programs to help you pay for school. And so please look into that. Okay, I'm going to kind of give you a list of ideas for jobs that are across pretty much all colleges and universities. You can become an RA, which is a residence assistant. You're kind of in the housing group. You're over usually a hallway or a certain amount of rooms, and you have duties. But a great benefit, my best friend, my maid of honor, Michelle Donahue, she was an RA all throughout college. She was a year older than me, so when I came in, she was a sophomore. I was a freshman. She was an RA up until she left and moved to Fayetteville. And she actually got her room and board completely paid for. So she got a free room and she also got a free meal plan by being an RA. Comes with benefits. Some RAs positions give you discounts like, oh, we're going to give you 50% off your meal plan. Oh, we're going to give you 50% off your room, whatever it is. There will be a discount. I promise with being an RA. They create incentives, otherwise kids wouldn't do it. So an RA is a great option. Sometimes they require you to be, beyond your freshman year. So if you're beyond your freshman year, it's a great option. You can work at restaurants. They have restaurants on campus. They also have restaurants off campus. And this is great because usually these are hourly based. So you can really work around your class schedule and different activities and things like that. You can work at like a shop or a store. I mentioned Walmart or Berkshire's or different places like that. And then they do have this thing where you can be a tutor or a teacher's assistant. And they have programs for that. And they are sometimes paid programs where you get paid to be a tutor or you get paid to be a teacher's assistant and help grade their work of the students' work. And so please look into all of that. I just mentioned a lot of on-campus jobs, but also off-campus jobs too. Number 4, and I'm going to get a drink real quick before we go to number 4. Okay, number 4 is if you're in sports or band or something like that, you can go into college athletics or they have band opportunities. Now, this is not the case for D3 schools, and I want you to keep that in mind. If you are thinking about going to college athletics or band or something like that, cheer team, dance team, something like that, D3 NCAA does not provide athletic scholarships, okay? NAIA does, D2, D1 does, and I don't know other divisions that they create for colleges. But just know D3 does not provide athletic scholarships. But these scholarships are great. And this is the reason that they are great. Is number 1, you have accountability. You have a team, you have a coach keeping you accountable, keeping you engaged. They are, your coach is going to look at how you're doing grade-wise, class-wise. Are you going to class? Are you not going to class? A lot of athletic programs provide resources for you to help you with your classes and different stuff. And you also get a lot of gear. You get, shoes and clothing and meals paid for when you go on weekend trips for your race or whatever you're doing. And another thing I'm going to point out is that your scholarship money can actually increase per year. because if you start increasing in your performance, which actually what happened to me, I came in and I was worthy of a scholarship. He was out of money, so he gave me $1 scholarship. I still got a scholarship, guys, but it was $1. But that next year I got more money, and every year after that I improved athletically, and I was doing better athletically. So of course your coach is going to give you more money. So that is also a great option. Number 5 is pretty, everybody knows this, scholarships. Looking for scholarships. Now, I'm going to give you the order that I think you should pursue scholarships for. Number 1 is through the school. Through the college, they have scholarships. You can go, usually like at SAU, they had like SAU Foundations. They had a whole list of scholarships. They had academic scholarships, a bunch of different scholarships. Sometimes your department that you're majoring in actually has scholarships as well. So be on the lookout for that. I want you, number 1, to go through your school that you're attending to. Once you've done that, think about people and businesses that you know in your area. Because, for instance, my dad's job that he worked at previously, their company had a scholarship foundation program. So actually, I got to apply for a scholarship because I was my dad's child. So I qualified for the scholarship. And that is what really helped pay for my school, my junior, senior year, and all throughout my master's. They paid so much for my school. And I also got to, for instance, I could use that scholarship money to get a new laptop because I needed a new laptop for, when your laptop gets old, it don't work as well anymore. And I needed a new one for my master's. So I got to pay for a laptop, and I could use it for different things outside of just paying for tuition and stuff that I would use towards school and my development and my growth. So think about people and businesses that maybe they know of a foundation, a scholarship application, things like that. I will say on here, one of my deep greatest desires, that one of my goals by the end of this year through Texas Outlaw Running, which is my husband and I's company that we run, I really want to start an application, scholarship applications for different topics, to help y'all pay for school, because this is so important to me. It is a passion that I have. I think that, the education system is robbing, especially lower income people who take out student loans but don't necessarily graduate, or they even take out student loans and they do graduate, but they don't get as high paying of a job that they thought they were going to have. I think we should strive to get school paid for in cash. Point blank, period. So the last thing I'm going to say is online scholarships. When I was a senior, I failed at this. I went directly to online scholarships. Online scholarships are promoted through ads, and you see them all over the place. They're plastered everywhere. The issue with online scholarships is they probably get thousands upon thousands of applicants, so the chances of you getting that scholarship are very slim. Unless it's something like, there's a narcolepsy scholarship. I didn't know about it, but there was one, and you had to be a senior in high school. I didn't find out till I was in college, so missed that opportunity. But not a lot of people have narcolepsy. So I could apply for that because I had a good chance, because the pool that they're pulling from is not that big. So that's why online scholarships are the last thing I would pursue, because your likelihood of getting it is just, it's not very likely. So, but I still think you should look into it. I'm just saying, don't get your hopes up. You will have a much better opportunity to get scholarships through the school and through businesses that you know. Number six is work during breaks. This is during summer breaks and during winter break. I don't expect you to work during spring break or Thanksgiving break, because those are just week longs, or fall break, which is like a long weekend. I don't expect you to work during that time, but I do expect you, and I do highly recommend working during the summer and working during Christmas break. I did this. I might have taken, there was one summer I did not work. I did actually volunteer charity work. It was COVID. It was 2020. I couldn't find a job. Because, the country had it was just going through a lot. So I did a lot of volunteer charity work for a ministry that I was our college ministry, and I loved it and I had a great time. But I will say that finding work that pays you and has incentives and stuff is great. There are paid internships. So you're wanting experience in the field that you're majoring in? Great. and all you got to do is ask, guys. Ask your college. Like, go to your college and say, hey, can you help me? Your professors are there to help you. Can you help me find a internship program that's paid for this summer in my area that I want to grow in? And yeah, they're going to help you. I'm sure they know of alumni in different businesses and different organizations that they know that they can help you get internships with. So internships. There's also study abroad programs through your university. A lot of universities offer study abroad programs where you are taking class credit, but you also can work abroad. I was going to do this study abroad program. I forget what it was called, where you actually like pick a country and you go work in the industry that you want to pursue after college. But COVID happened and it got canceled. And so I didn't get to go do that. I was going to go to Spain and work for a design agency, but then COVID started spreading and we all know what happened after that. So there are study abroad programs. And then the last thing is mission trips. Mission trips are just a great way. I know you might have to pay some up front, but a lot of times there are programs like teen missions, different programs where you can actually do a mission trip and you spend and you can work. I mean, mission trips, some organizations that offer mission trips, they need people like a photographer or a videographer or a content creator or, I don't know, that's my field of what I do, so I know those topics. But they have people, admin maybe, like where they're like, hey, we need somebody to work for the summer because we're going to have all these people come on this mission trip. So there are options. Just do your research and don't be afraid to ask. Number seven is probably going to be one of the hardest to consider, but it is the easiest one out of all of these. But again, it's going to take sacrifice and patience and things like that. It is to take it slower than recommended. The degree plan says that in 4 years you will graduate with a certain degree across the board. Most majors, 2 years as an associate's, 4 years as a bachelor's degree. You do not. It is not illegal to take 5 years. It is not illegal to take 7 years. You can take one class at a time. You're not going to be a full-time student, but you can pay for it out that way. So Briston in his master's, he's in his master's right now. That's what we're doing. Number one, we are super busy and he really does not have the time to be a full-time student. But number two is, we want to pay and cash flow his degree. And so, we sat down and we basically had the conversation of like, look, how long is it going to take me if I take 2 classes a semester instead of 4? Or if I take 1 class a semester instead of 2? And he doesn't take breaks during the summer. He does class year round. And so, but he does 1 class per semester. So doing summer hours can catch you up, but just evaluate, is it better for me to do more classes during the semester and take the summer off, or is it better for me to just do 1 or 2 classes year round and not take a break? Do what you can pay. Do what you can pay. And a lot of people are going to try to convince you. They're trying to persuade you, and they have good intentions, so I don't want to come across they just have these horrible intentions. They don't. They have good intentions. But a lot of people are going to try to persuade you that it's okay to go full time, take out debt. You have your whole life to pay it off, yada, all this stuff. And yeah, you can spend your whole life paying off your student loans. Or you can spend your whole life saving for retirement. Or saving for a house. Or giving to a church. Or to a ministry. Or to people in need. You get to decide how you're going to spend your money. You get to decide how you're going to steward your money. You get to decide at the end of the day. You are becoming an adult. If you are a senior or a junior in high school, guess what? This is your first decision as an adult. And I want you to make a good decision. I want you to make a wise decision. So don't let other people try to convince you. You listen to, number 1, where God is calling you to do and what he's calling you to do. And that ties into number 8. Wait until a better time or God says yes. Like, don't move and don't make decisions based on you, your understanding, your wisdom, or other people's understanding or their wisdom. Make a decision based on what you feel like God wants you to do. Okay, that's going to save yourself a lot of stress and a lot of anxiousness. And is it going to be easy? No, I'm not saying listening to God is always bliss. It is not. I had to work really hard to get school paid for in cash. It was not easy. The easier thing, short-term wise, would have been to go to Texas Tech, not do college athletics, just do that life and take out student loans. That would have been easy. But I would be paying for it right now. But it was hard, denying my desires of that D1 school, choosing a D2 school, choosing to go into college athletics, which I ended up loving, choosing to work during the summertime and during Christmas break, and rather than be traveling and doing all these things that other people I know from my school are doing. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare where they're at to where you're at. I love what Rachel Cruz and Dave Ramsey says. A lot of times when people are highlighting their glamour behind the scenes, that's not actually what's going on. Okay? And a lot of times, guys, the people with the most money and the people who are stewarding their money the best aren't flashy about it. They're very humble about it. The people who are flashing and doing all that crazy stuff, they're not stewarding their money the best. The majority of the time, they're not. They're broke. But they want to come off as, I got all this money, I got all this stuff. Like, I'm doing great. No. So, we're going to wait on God. I want you to wait on God. And this is where we tie into the next episode with the 3 P's. It's called pray, patience, and plan. And in the next episode, we're really going to dive into what it means to pray, what it means to be patient, and what it means to plan. And so be sure to follow or subscribe for more information about this. Be sure to listen to the next episode. And I am going to do an episode every week during the month of April. This is what this series is, to celebrate Financial Literacy Month, because I want you to be successful. I want you to get school paid for. I don't want you to be bound in bondage of student debt. Student debt doesn't own you. It doesn't need to own you. I don't want you to be a slave to student debt. I want you to steward your money well, so well, that you graduate debt-free, the debt-free way. You go from student to graduate the debt-free way, so that you're able to pour in to God's kingdom more, and you're able to build your character, guys. This is the thing about stewarding your finances. It builds your character. It builds your character so much because you're having to sacrifice and you're having to be patient. And you're having to have self-control. And those are fruits of the Spirit. That's what Jesus requires us to do. So don't look at this as, this is just a prosperity gospel thing. No, guys, this is a refining opportunity. You can be foolish or you can be wise. And I want us to be wise. So check out the next episode. And I love y'all.